Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I don't know if you remember from last week, but I got stuck in my chair and I've been stuck here ever since. The only food I've had to eat are these sweethearts that expired over 3 years ago. You know, it's old, but it's also bad. That's staying in. Hey, you know, speaking of sweethearts, there's this new movie coming out next week called Isn't It Romantic, starring Rebel Wilson. She plays this woman who's very disenchanted with the concept of rom-coms, and then one day she bumps her head and then she wakes up in one. Now, when I heard about this, it really piqued my interest because I'm a pretty big fan of parody movies when they're done right. So I looked into it and I found that the director, Strauss-Schulson, directed a pretty similar movie a few years back called The Final Girls. Now, I had heard about this, but I never got around to watching it. So I figured, why not check it out? So, this is a review. It's a review corner. It's my show. Where's that piece I spat out? I'm gonna throw this in the trash. I missed! The Final Girls is about a young woman named Max, played by Tisa Farmiga, whose mother, a former 80s scream queen, dies tragically in a car accident. 3 years go by, and Max reluctantly agrees to go to a screening of her most famous movie, Camp Bloodbath. Long story short, Max and her friends end up transporting into the movie somehow, and now they have to find a way to get out, to make it to the end of the movie in one piece, basically. So I'm gonna start with the positives, because I feel like I've used this channel to be sort of negative. She is the most unpleasant person. A world-class douchebag. A bunch of horseshit. The cast works really well together. They bounce off each other really well comedically, like Aaliyah Shawkat and Thomas Middleditch, who play stepsister and brother. And I also love how Thais's character interacts with her mother, played by Malin Ackerman. This is probably Thais's best role that I've seen her in, although everything else has been American Horror Story, so it's a pretty low bar. Yeah, that's right, that's my first dig at Ryan Murphy on this channel, and you can expect a lot more, Mr. Murphy. I'm putting your ass on blast! Now, I don't know a lot about Malin Ackerman, but she showed great range in this movie, both as Max's mom and as one of the counselors in a cheesy 80s slasher flick. The script is really funny, very quippy. At 91 minutes, it's not very long, so the plot chugs right along, it keeps on moving, there's not a lot of filler in this. I would say most of the scenes find an efficient way to move the plot forward, as well as maintain its humor, and I really appreciate that. And then besides the humor, there's this emotional layer, because they deal with a lot of themes like grief and moving on from losing a loved one, and there's a really strong emotional climax to that that's really satisfying. On a technical level, this movie is also pretty impressive. It is a visual treat, I would say. The director, Strauss-Schulson, did not skimp on camera movements and really great camera angles. And the score is amazing. I really appreciate their commitment to recreating that ominous synth music from the 80s. Okay, now on to the negatives. The CGI is bad. Like, pretty bad. Noticeably bad. Now, I understand that they had a small budget, about $4.5 million, and they worked around that in a lot of areas, for example, limiting locations and sets. However, there are some parts in here that they should have done a lot better even with the budget that they had. For example, the car crash in the beginning that kills Max's mother, it looked really bad. Whiplash was made for less money, and they had a better car crash. What's your excuse? Why can't you be more like Whiplash? And while I enjoyed Max's storyline, I feel like the other characters got the short end of the stick when it came to personality. Some of them feel sort of, one-dimensional. Which is ironic because they're next to these one-dimensional characters from an 80s slasher flick. The most unnecessary character is probably Chris, played by Alexander Ludwig. He was really only there just to be love interest to Max, and maybe it's the gay talking, but I really don't see why she had to have a love interest for this movie. Fortunately, that romantic subplot takes up very little of the runtime, and we focus mostly on Max's relationship with her mother. And then there's some parts that not only have nothing to do with the plot, but they're also not that funny. For example, early on, one character brings up the fact that they have a bunch of Adderall. Already I know, somewhere along the line, another character is going to take a bunch of that Adderall. The same exact thing happened to Bobby Moynihan in the movie Sisters. He was the best part of the movie because he's Bobby Moynihan and I love him. And you know what? I'm gonna play the gay card. They did not have a good enough excuse to say the F word in this movie. They really didn't. I understand that 80s movies got pretty casually homophobic, but unless you have something actually of substance to say about that, then I would say pick your battles. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun, the good outweighs the bad, and I'd give it an 8 out of 10. For sure, go see it. So what does this mean for his next movie, Isn't It Romantic, which comes out next week, like I said? Well, after seeing what he did with the Final Girls, I'm kind of excited. He brought a lot of ingenuity to the project. Just pretend that didn't happen. He brought a lot of ingenuity to the project, and I'm really excited to see how he's gonna do this next one. However, I do have some hangups after seeing the trailer. So I'm gonna list them off right now. Hangup number 1, the part where Rebel Wilson hits her head. Can we not think of a more creative way to jumpstart this plot? Hangup number 2, Adam Devine is there. I don't like Adam Devine. I just don't. I don't have to like him. There's no law. I just don't like his face. I don't like the vibes he gave off. I didn't like him in the Final Girls, and I don't think I'm gonna like him in this next movie either. Fucking sue me. Hangup number 3. I don't know how long the meta jokes will be funny for. Like, is the whole movie just gonna be Rebel Wilson going around and being like, that's a rom-com trope, that's a rom-com trope, hey, that's a rom-com trope? Like, are we just gonna have her hold our hand throughout the entire movie and explain all the jokes? Because I'm not for that. And then hangup number 4, most importantly, this has been done before, and by this I mean parodies of rom-coms. Remember Date movie? I hope not, that movie sucked. Remember They Came Together? Of course you don't, no one knows that movie, but it's really good, and it's really funny, and it's really underrated, and I also recommend that movie. But back to what I was saying, this idea has been done before. However, just because an idea has been done before, doesn't mean it can't be done again, as long as you approach it at a different angle, which is what I'm hoping that Todd has done. And time will tell if he has truly done this. I'm gonna check this movie out next week, and I'm gonna let you know what I thought about it in a different review. But for now, I'm John Butter, and insert witty outro message here. Shit.